along those lines, Francis keeps the headlines coming. I think most recently, in the midst of this synod, he issued I'm probably going to mess this up, but I don't know if it was an encyclical per se, but he released what was essentially a climate change manifesto, Laudate Deum. And
Yes.
I don't recall all the details of what he wrote, but it was it was very similar and along the same lines of pro climate, almost quasi climate panic, climate worship language that he's issued in the past, which is really indistinguishable from, say, a UN statement on
Yes.
climate change.
Yes. Yeah, I've attempted to read the document. Um, Again, it to me it's not this is not where popes and bishops belong. We're about saving souls, right? And popes aren't scientists, right? And the inability, even in the document, to even admit that there's great discord within the scientific community about this issue. It's as if there's a unanimous consent about what's going on with the atmosphere and with the climate in this document. And that's not even good research. It's not even a good way to present information. And it takes half of devout and committed Christians and just splices them off from being faithful children of the church because they have a disagreement, which is primarily a political issue to a massive extent in world politics, right? But to put it in absolute terms with an encyclical is, again, I don't get it.
And part of, again, what fuels the consternation of so many is the dichotomy between here you have this very open revolt within the church against the biblical, the church's given definition, the God-revealed definition of gender and sexuality and marriage, not offering any clarity on those issues, yet at the same time coming out with absolutely clear, definitive statements on these tangential, really unimportant issues to the faith regarding things like climate change and economics that really provide no value or benefit to the faithful.
That's absolutely right. You know, there's been no discipline to German bishops defying the most basic Christian anthropology, right? No, nothing, not at all, right? But like you said, applying a writing on the environment in this absolutist terms, right? It's amazing.
And to play the devil's advocate too, you could have an easier time defending some of the Pope's other pursuits if there was also the clarity on the sexuality issue, because then you could treat those for what they are, and you can get into the conversation of saying, well, yes, environmental stewardship is important as stewards of God's creation. Let's have a conversation about that. Or, well, let's talk as amongst church leadership and discuss the principles of economics which are most conducive to human flourishing. And those are all good and important conversations to have, which are of value to the Christian
faith. There's no rational Christian that wouldn't say that we are stewards of the earth. It goes back to the first, chapters of Genesis, right? But at the same time, as the New Testament clearly tells us, right, this world's passing away. Our hope isn't in this world, right? It leads to this idea that the earth's divine. It's like Mother Earth worship. Like our only hope as human beings is in this world. Well, no, this world won't even exist in the culmination of time because we don't belong to this world, as Peter says, right? We're resident aliens as it is. We belong to the fatherland, which is to come, which is infinitely better than this existence, right? And so this wrong preoccupation with
that's exactly the word I was thinking.
With environmentalism. Not that we ignore environmentalism, but environmentalism has become the religion.
Yes.
of the Western world. And what the Pope does, and the whole slew of the Protestant world, has just kissed themselves up to replacing revelation in the role of the church and the gospel is to present people with the reality of who Jesus is, that he's the savior of the
Yes.
world and he brings salvation to a fallen race. That's our mission. That's our job. That should be our dearest concern about every human being. Not the fact that in the last 100 years, literally, the Atlantic Ocean has moved like 3.5 centimeters. But meanwhile, people outside of knowledge of Christ, according to the New Testament, are outside of salvation, right?
The
The
concerns
concern,
are totally messed up.
of course, they're so juxtaposed in the wrong way that the church gets reduced to me. I don't know. You can answer what you think. The vast, vast, vast majority of people have reduced the church to a mouthpiece of sociopolitical issues, environmental issues, and social justice causes.